I'm joined in studio by Ntiyiso Consulting Chief Revenue Officer Miyelani Holeni. Thanks for your time, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
so
John.
It's a very dire situation if you look at the figures. 13.8 billion rand owed to Eskom alone. Only 7% of the country's municipalities are classified as well functioning. What's the problem?
Well, it's a very dire set of circumstances, because if you look at the very amount that is being owed to Eskom, municipalities are required to buy or to purchase bulk electricity from Eskom so that they can supply to their own consumers. So there could be a number of problems which we are seeing, which is non-payment on the side of consumers, which result in the municipality not being able to recoup the money which they've outlaid or they should outlay and pay back to Eskom so that they can continue trading. So on that basis, we feel that municipalities which are owing Eskom need to do a lot more to strengthen their revenue value chains, to strengthen their collections capabilities, to strengthen their credit control capabilities, because it's one of those things that if you have to purchase something and you have to pay someone back, you have to make sure that it's done on time and the municipality can still be credible and can trade.
Does it boil down to corruption? Because 64 municipalities are cash-strapped. They don't have money.
It's not always corruption. I think what we need to look at is the model of the municipalities themselves. We know that municipalities must function as businesses. And some businesses, if they struggle or they don't budget properly for their obligations, if they don't account properly for their revenue, if they don't have the proper systems in place to be able to go and fetch the revenue from the various consumers, or to be able to enforce the bylaws that they must have in place. So it's not always a case of corruption. And in this case, we are talking and advocating that the revenue value chain of municipalities has been neglected for a while. If you look at from the fact that there's valuation, the property rates that must be paid, you're finding that some municipalities may not have or do not have in their valuation rolls some of the stands that should be billed for property rates, and that cascades all the way down to the other services of electricity, of water, of sewer and refuse collection. So we're looking at a value chain approach with municipalities, and this is what we would advocate, that it needs to be looked at strongly. But on the other side, if you look at the case of Eskom, they are also running a business of which they must recover whatever monies or that they outlay. And on the other side, the municipalities as well is the same. So there's a business model, or at least there must be a confluence of ideas, or at least working together between municipalities and Eskom. And one of the things that we've been looking at quite strongly is to look at a model where as soon as consumers are buying electricity, whether it's prepaid electricity, there should be a split model where Eskom can be paid directly so that you can start avoiding some of the debts which are coming through from an Eskom point of view. And it's something that we'll be putting together a policy paper on, or at least advocating for a policy on that, so that there be some kind of a change, because each one of the entities or municipal-owned entities, as well as the state-owned entity being Eskom, must be sustainable and must be viable.
So let's talk about municipalities who are not being run properly, or that are not being run properly and outside of Eskom's problems, because there are municipalities, according to Treasury, that are failing to do their jobs. They're not working and functioning properly as municipality. How did they actually get help? Because they come up on the list of bad municipalities over and over and over again.
The big thing there is governance, because if you look at what governance is within a municipality, as advocated, from all the legislation on municipalities, whether it's the financial side, the Municipal Finance Management Act, Municipal System Structures Act, and so on and so forth. So we need to have a strong governance model within the municipality, and that governance model starts all the way with the council, of which you have a mayor, and most of the municipalities have executive mayors. There's also the speakers and so on. So we need to use the various committees and as well as the oversight mechanisms that are there within the municipality to ensure that all of the areas within the municipalities function properly. We also have, for instance, within municipalities, the finance committees and various committees that must preside over the governance. And also as well, we're talking about the management, or at least the running of the municipalities, from the municipal managers, the chief financial officers, and so on. So that requires strong governance, where from a supply chain management point of view, there's strict governance. There is also forward, and demand management for services that must be purchased. The budgets must also as well not be inflated, because at times you may see some municipalities inflating their budgets so that they can balance those budgets. And often it's at the behest of revenue of which that revenue is not always realized. So some of the municipalities may paint a rosy picture of how they are functioning, and what we're saying is that with some of the processes that are coming in from a national treasury point of view, such as the M-score, are attempting to get to the root and as well as to the bottom of how municipalities should function properly, and at least report on a basis that is standardized and can be seen. So we're talking about a big factor on the governance side, which needs to be enforced. And with the people who are coming in, for instance, as councillors and various office bearers, we also need to ensure that they go through serious induction. And when we talk about induction on an ongoing basis, to the point which they are comfortable with running the various aspects of the municipality and can play oversight role if they need to, or be able to run the various departments which must deliver various services.
So basically, ultimately, this means that national government needs to babysit these municipalities in order for them to get things right.
It's not always, in fact, national government is there to provide the oversight and the support, but we also feel that if you look at how the model for municipalities is where 9% of the fiscus goes into municipalities, and municipalities are therefore pushed to go and generate their own revenue and so on. We believe that there needs to be a relook in terms of that model, because there needs to be more funding that goes into municipalities to build that capacity. We have had a municipal system which is in a way still storming in terms of how it was formed. So it needs to be revisited and funding put in place to rescue some of the municipalities, but at least to strengthen some of those municipalities which require strengthening so that they can start performing better. Because on the other side, there is still a huge debt which consumers are owing municipalities in excess of 140 billion. And if you look at how much municipalities generate across the board, it's just north of 150 billion. So you can see that there's almost a toe-to-toe match between the debt which consumers owe municipalities as well as what the revenue that they generate. So we believe that there needs to be a bit more funding that goes into municipalities. Yes, there are grants that are coming in, but those grants need to be accelerated so that they can also clean up issues such as indigence and be able to get the municipalities back on track. So we're seeing that there is more and more a requirement and a support, but also, as we say, the strengthening of the skills and the people who work within the space of local government.
All right, thank you so much for the insight. We do appreciate it. I actually didn't know most of the things that you were talking about, so that's good. That was Ntiyiso Consulting Chief Revenue Officer, Miyelani Holeni.